So what I'm going to walk through now, just to get this explanation part over with, is I'm going to create another EC2 instance, and then following the instructions that I've provided in the GitHub repo for our class. So under week 13 summary, the two important files here. So we have the raw data files that we're working with, and then the week 13 streamlit.py file. This is the file that you guys are going to use to modify to create the new visualizations. And how do you create the new visualizations and stuff like that? Well, you guys are going to need to read through some of the documentation within the Streamlit. How do you display text? How do you display data? And again, based off of the example file that I've provided to you guys already, the example file, the week 13 streamlit.py file, this already has examples like what we were going through last week of how do you incorporate in text, how do you incorporate in Markdown, how do you incorporate in a pie chart, how do you incorporate in tables. So this should be a pretty good sort of start for you guys to then be able to use the skill sets that you've been working on to then come up with your own interesting stories or ways of presenting and slicing and dicing the data. Let's see. What we're going to cover then today is the part that I was kind of screwing up last Wednesday, where I was trying to install Streamlit and I made it very confusing. So in the GitHub repo, let me just reopen this back up. There is a folder called, within the week 13 folder, there's a file called AWS Instructions. So this goes over how do you install Python 3, the pip package manager, and Streamlit to get it working. So these instructions don't cover how to set up the EC2 instance and the PEM key file. That's something that we've sort of gone over in other material. This part here is specific just to the installation of this dashboard tool and the packages that we require to get it up and running. So I'm going to jump into, and I'll give you guys just a second to sort of pull this up if you want to follow along. I've logged into the AWS console. So if you guys want to sort of follow along, you should be able to follow along with everything that I got here. I will also shoot over the GitHub link in case you don't want to, in case you don't have it bookmarked or downloaded. That's the, let's see, shoot, I actually sent over the wrong link there, sorry. It is not that one, it is the deployment one. Okay, so it's the second link in the text field or in the text box that you guys will that we'll be walking through right now. All right, so I have my student account, the AWS dashboard open, and I'm under the EC2 dashboard section. So this part here should look familiar to you guys now. We've talked about this a couple different times. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new EC2 instance and walk through how we install Streamlit. So you guys will be able to follow this video, follow the instructions, and hopefully this should eradicate any, or at least minimize any error messages that you guys might run into. So I'm under the EC2 dashboard. I'm going to click on Launch Instance. So we're going to create a new EC2 instance here. We're going to scroll down, and the type of EC2 instance that we're going to create, Ubuntu 18.04 long-term support. So I'm going to select this, and I'm just going to use the T2 micro. You guys could use a T2 small or T2 medium, doesn't matter. And I'm just going to click Review and Launch. We're just going to use all of the sort of standard configurations for this, just to make this as simple as possible. And then we're going to click Launch. I'm going to use my existing PEM key, AWS Educate Haunts, and I'm going to acknowledge that I have it. Now I'm going to click Launch Instance. So we can now see that our instance is being launched. It's been initiated. I could click on this hyperlink, and it's going to take me to the state, shows that it's loading, and I'm just going to rename this quick, called Streamlit AHI test. Oops. All right. And now we can see it's running. And most importantly, we could see our public IP. And just to sort of mimic this, as you guys would probably do it, I'm just gonna go, let me back up. I'm gonna click on connect up on the top right. I'm gonna go to the SSH client, and here we could see this is the example code that I would use within my console to connect to this instance. So I'm just going to, so I'm already in the folder that contains my PEM key. So we could see that I need my AWS Educate PEM key. So there's my AWS Educate PEM key. And I'm just going to paste in the example connection code that AWS provides and click enter. I'm going to say yes, but I want to keep on connecting. And now I've successfully connected to this new instance. Now, I've provided here in that GitHub document some instructions for us to follow. So I'm going to follow these step by step just to make sure I haven't missed anything and explain what each of these does. So first thing, sudo apt-get update. So we type in sudo apt-get update. What this is doing, this is just updating the operating system. So we have the packages that are required to, install the updated Python 3 and things like that. So sudo apt-get update is a pretty common command for sysadmins working on Linuxes. When they tear them down, spin them up, typically this is the first command that you do on any new operating system, just to make sure you're working with the freshest and best version. Kind of like if you're doing a Windows update or a Mac OS update, same exact thing. Now, with this version of Ubuntu 18.04, if we type in Python 3, we can see that Python 3 is already installed. So in the terminal, I just typed in Python 3. Now we have a working Python 3 kernel up. So I could do like 3 plus 3, and it's going to return 6. I could say, Hans equals to 5, enter Hans, and it returns 5. So this is good old Python, just a terminal version. So great. And then I could do exit I'll show you guys again there. If I log in and I do exit with closed brackets, that then exits me out of that Python and returns me to my terminal in the EC2 instance. So we've confirmed that Python 3 is already installed. Now, the next step that we want to do is we want to install pip. And we want to, and again, pip is the Python package manager that enables us to install things like pandas, Flask, or Plotly, or any of those like NumPy, any of those packages that we previously worked with. So in order to install that, we're going to just follow the instructions. Going to type in sudo apt install Python 3 pip. And then we confirm, we click yes. And then this is going to install pip for us. It's going to take a few seconds, but again, all of this is pretty quick. While this is running, if you Google pip, you could see that, let's go in, it's what's this? I'll shoot this over in the chat window. This is kind of like the Wikipedia for pip. It actually, this isn't, yeah. So pip stands for the Python Index Package Manager. So again, very similar to the package manager in R, but specific to Python. You can see that there's more than 270,000 different pip packages available. So it's quite a lot. All right, so now I'm going to navigate back over to our instructions and to our terminal. So we've now seen that this has been able to successfully install. And I could confirm by then typing in the command pip3. And we could see that it responds with a bunch of different parameters that we could sort of place into this command. So to show you guys like how this works, if I were to go into my Python 3, and what's a common package, if someone shout out, that we commonly use within Python?
Pandas.
Okay, perfect, Mike. Yeah. So if I were to say import pandas, it says error, module error, no module named pandas. So that means that we do not have the pandas package installed. So let's install it. So now because we have pip3 installed, we could say pip3 and then install pandas. And then if I hit execute, it's then going to go through, bring down the pandas package, as well as any of the dependencies that exist with that package. So we could see it has successfully installed not only pandas, but some of the dependencies, which is numpy, pytz, and 6. So now if we go back into Python using Python 3, and now I say import pandas, no error. So now we have successfully installed pandas. Magic. It works, and it's quite easy and straightforward.
Professor,
So,
can we say import pandas as NP?
Yep. So then we could say import pandas as PD. So then we could be like, hey, test is equal to PD dot load CSV, and then provide, or forget if it's load or import, but yeah, then we could call, any of the sort of, typical pandas functions that we're used to. And let's actually just try that quick. So it's, I think we have one of our data sets here, inpatient CSV. Let me just get the link to this raw. Okay, so let's actually test this. So if we do PD, and I think it's read.csv followed by that, syntax error, probably screwed up something, yep. So we say test is equal to pd.read, and then we copy paste that in, enter. It's not read, test, test equals pd.read_csv. And you can see here, right, when we sort of do this manually, we're not actually getting any of the helper commands like we normally do. Perfect. It loaded it. Now I can say like, test dot head 5. And then there's our first 5 rows. So we've successfully installed pandas and got that working. So if we now go back to our instructions for getting Streamlit stuff up. So we successfully installed the pip, and I've showed you guys now how we could use pip to install pandas. Now let's use pip to install Streamlit. So Nick's instruction, we say pip3 install Streamlit. Simple as that. Now it's going to look very similar to how we installed the package for pandas. It's going through. And this might take a few more seconds because there's a lot of dependencies. All right. Cool. This is just about done. Should be done in a second. This is like the last stage here where it's showing us everything that it's just installed. These are all of the packages that are dependencies for Streamlit to run. So there's a lot of dependencies. Awesome. So to check that this worked, we could go back into Python using our Python 3 command, and then I could say import Streamlit. It worked. It has successfully installed. We could load it in Python without any problem. So I'm just going to exit. Now, the next part of this instruction, and this is going to get a little bit technical, but then we'll zoom back out, is sort of where I was running into my problems the last time. So right now, without going any further, if we just type in the command Streamlit, we're going to get this error. It says Streamlit command not found. And the reason why it's not found is because the folder in which all of the Python packages live in is not connected to this sort of terminal interface. that we have not assigned a folder path in which we could call executable programs from the terminal. So as an example, right, if you're on a machine and you go into a terminal, or even if like you're up here, right, and you type in Safari, the reason why I'm able to return Safari and the app Safari is because Safari lives in an applications folder that is accessible to this search bar. So likewise, what we need to do within this instance of Ubuntu on this Linux machine is we need to now assign and tell our terminal that we have this pip3 package. We have this pip folder that contains a bunch of packages with potentially executable programs that we want to run. So that's what these next 3 lines do. So within Linux, there is a file called a bash RC file. And briefly, a bash RC file is kind of like a configuration file for our terminal that is specific to this Linux instance that we're currently connected to. This bash RC file, and if we load it up here using nano, so we go to the next line, we do nano backslash bash RC. We could see here that it contains a bunch of weird looking stuff. But these are all just configuration parameters for our terminal on the remote machine. So we don't really care about a lot of these. And what I've done is we want to copy and paste this line, export path home to local bin. So all I need to do is go into this file, and then I'm going to paste in that export path equals quote $home /.local bin with this wildcard path. And what this is going to do is this is going to say, hey, anything within the local bin folder, which is where pip is, make it searchable to our terminal. So if I paste that in and then I do my Control-O to save this, to write it, and we see we have now the right 119 lines, so it's saved, and I do Control-X to exit. And then I need to restart this terminal. So the way I restart this terminal, because I want to reload that bash file in order for those changes to take effect. So very similar to what we were working with, with Mike B on like Monday, right? If when I made a change to a configuration file for SQL, we then needed to restart that SQL process. So very similar then, what we would then do is we'd run this source backslash bash RC command to then restart. So now if I type in Streamlit, we no longer get an error message, but now we get the additional configuration or parameters for the Streamlit command. So I'll hit the pause button here for just a second and quickly review this part of it. So in order for us to get Streamlit and the Streamlit program available to us on our terminal, we need to change our sort of terminal configuration file, which is located in this bash RC doc. We then copy and paste in this export path equals to then tell our terminal and our configuration file that, hey, we want to make accessible all of the subfolders within this local bin folder available to us. So we copy and paste that in, save it, and then we restart our terminal with this source command, and then we should be able to try Streamlit and type that in. Rob, were you about to ask a question?
Yeah, so that path that's just a generic thing that's not unique to everyone.
Correct. So this is a generic path for our specific version of Linux that we're working on with the way in which we installed pip. So there's like a variety of different variations of how to install pip3, but the way in which I've provided the instructions here this is the generic path that it's going to install on all of your machines.
I see. All right.
Yeah, so there's no need to change this. This is just a copy and paste command. Yeah, so does that answer your question, Rob? So on like different variations of Linux, whether it's like the Red Hat or maybe the Amazon version of Linux or Ubuntu or CentOS, they might differ with where their .local bin folder is or where pip is installed. But for Ubuntu, which is what I'm working with, which is the most common, this is sort of where things are saved. Yeah.
So had you chosen a different EC2 machine, hypothetically, in the AWS, then would this be different?
Yeah.
Okay.
This could potentially be different then. Yeah. And the way in which you would check that, we could say, I think it's which pip3. So we could see here, right, that this is within USR bin. And .local is just an abbreviation for the sort of user also. So this is just sort of, you know, and it's a dot there because it's a hidden file. So hypothetically, Rob, if you were to sort of work on this on a different operating system and you've already installed pip, you could do which pip. And we're not getting a response there because there's no pip. We installed pip3. And then you would be able to use that as a sort of way of identifying the path to where it is installed.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, good question. All right, so then the next part of this is, well, okay, we have the Streamlit thing installed. Now let's bring over our like Python file. So you guys can, you know, one way of doing this, like I've done here, is we could use this Git Clone command to bring over the file that I was showing that we've been working on and then just modify it within the EC2 instance. Or you can modify it on your own machine and then do the secure copy paste or use FileZilla to bring that file over to this machine. For sake of instructions, I'm gonna do this. So Git Clone, if we just type in Git is our way of like pulling down or uploading information to GitHub. So if we just copy and paste this, you guys will see that what it's going to do is it's going to then clone all of the files and folders that exist within our AHI stats repo on GitHub. And then I'm going to add in these commands. But now if we were to do ls, we could now see we have a new folder on our machine called AHI stats 507. And if I were to navigate into it, so I use CD, stands for change directory. And then I type in AHI stats 507, click enter. Then I do ls again. We could now see, and if I do ls space -l, we could see that we've now automatically installed all of these different folders with their files that we sort of need. So then if I go into week 13 summary, do LSL again, we could see this is our Python file that contains our Streamlit code. Oops, sorry, I'm trying to move things around. So if we were to say nano, again, nano is our terminal text editor, and say week 13 _ Streamlit and click enter. This is our Python file that contains all of our code that we were working on last week. So I'm going to exit out of this doing Control X. Now we could test this by say running Streamlit run week 13. So if we scroll down here now, this is the command that we would use to run this. But as you'll see, there's some things that we have not yet done. There's going to be some gotchas. So Streamlit run, and I type in week 13. Probably misspelling this. Week 13.streamlit and hit run. So cool. It's saying, so it provides us with two URLs, network URL and external URL. The one that we care about and the one that you will share with me And the only one that you would be able to use to view the actual application is the external. This is the publicly available one. So if we copy this, go into my browser, and I paste it in. And we're going to run into an issue here. Can anyone guess what it is? It looks like it's not loading. That it's just thinking. I'll give a hint and say it's with this. It's with something related to security and permissions.
Yeah,
It's
I
not
was
gonna-
permission. Sorry.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
It's not going to let you log in from a different IP address.
Close.
Is it credentials?
Close, close. I'm highlighting it right now on my screen.
The port.
Yep. Yeah. So when we launched this EC2 instance, and because this is on port 8501, or the way Streamlit deploys on 8501, we need to make port 8501 available to the web. So this is now where if we were to go back to our EC2 console, so wherever that is. Okay, so here it is. So our EC2 console, silly thing expired. Let me log back in. I think I had one tab somewhere. So annoying. Okay, AWS educate. Sign in. Classroom. TV. Go to classroom. Okay. Then we go to our console. All right, so we go to our EC2. Instance is running. So this is the instance that we created. I check mark it. We get all of these details at the bottom. And where we want to go to is security. So if we scroll down, we see by default, right, only port 22 is open. And port 22 is how we actually connected to this remote instance using our terminal, right, using SSH. But because Streamlit is deploying to that other port 8504, we need to change these inbound rules so we could allow other computers to connect to our computer via that port. So how do we do this? We click on security groups here. So this little blue hyperlink. And just like we were doing for SQL, we need to go here to inbound and modify. So we say edit the inbound rules, and we're going to click on add rule, custom TCP. And what was the port number again, guys? Was it, I forget.
85, that one?
Yeah. Was it 8506?
I think you said 8502.
It's
8502.
8501.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Thank
All
you,
right, so we type in 8501, and then we say we want any IP address to be able to connect to this. So you almost got it, Chris. It was just missing the port piece. So we've added in port 8501. We say we could allow any IP to connect, and then we click Save Rules. Cool. So now here we could see port 8501, and actually, yeah, could open back up my terminal 8501. So let's copy and paste this again and try again. Awesome. So this is progress. But can now anyone guess what is happening here? So we're now able to go to our dashboard, but we're getting an error, module not found, no module named Plotly. So what does this mean? And can someone like look at this error message and tell us what we need to potentially do?
I would guess you need to install the Plotly package.
Yep, excellent, Rob. So this is saying that it can't find that module, that when it's getting to this line of our code, import Plotly as express as px, it's not finding that package. So we need to install that package. So if we now go back to our terminal, we could see that this application is still running. So we have to stop it from running. So the way we stop this, we do Control C. So we could see here I did Control C, stopping. And now also if we were to try and refresh this page now, we could see that we're going to now get can't connect to server because we just took down the server. So how do we install Plotly? Anyone want to take a guess? It starts off with pip3. And then what would be the second and third part of this command?
pip3 install Plotly.
Yep. Excellent, excellent, Mike. So we'll say pip3 install Plotly, and then we click enter. So now we're going through that. It's installing Plotly and all of its dependencies. I think this should just take a second also. So we could see here, it's now successfully installed. Awesome. So now, again, because the terminal is smart, I don't need to remember how we did the run Streamlit thing. I think it was Streamlit run followed by the package or by our script name, but I could click the up arrow and we hit that. And now Streamlit run week 13 Streamlit, we click enter. And then it's still the same IP and everything, like that's not changing. So now if we go back to our browser here and click run, voila, we now see that it has successfully installed Plotly. We're no longer getting any error messages. And just to sort of show you guys again, in the chat window, you guys should be able to now visit also this IP address and see the same view that I'm looking at. If all of you try right now at the same time, it actually might take down the server because there's only 1 GB of RAM and 1 virtual CPU. So maybe only the first couple of you might be able to log on to it successfully. But that's sort of what we would do to get this up and running. So hopefully this helps a bit with the instructions. So I think if you guys were to follow what I've posted here within this GitHub file, and again, it's all linked within the assignment, and follow this step by step, you should be able to replicate this.